Going through a divorce is without a doubt one of the toughest things anyone can face. It's just a whirlwind of emotion and uncertainty. But even in all that chaos, there are choices you can make to protect your future. And it turns out there is one single mistake that stands out from all the others, one that can literally change the entire outcome.
So what is it? What's that one thing that can totally derail the whole process, costing you a fortune in time, money, and just your own sanity? Well, it's actually surprisingly simple, but it's incredibly hard to manage when your emotions are running high.
And there you have it. It's not some obscure legal filing or a missed financial detail. Nope, the biggest mistake you can make is an emotional one. Letting anger, fear, or that desire for revenge get in the driver's seat instead of logic and a clear head focused on your future.
Now, you might be thinking, of course I'm emotional. I'm going through a divorce. And you're absolutely right. That's totally valid. The goal here isn't to pretend those emotions don't exist. It's to stop them from making your strategic decisions for you. Let's take a look at the very real price you pay when they do. First off, it can lead to much, much worse outcomes in court. You know, those actions that are designed to hurt your spouse, they almost always backfire. Judges are focused on the law and what's fair, not on who's angrier. Lashing out can just make you look unreasonable, and that can really damage your own case.
Second, it just drags everything out. I mean, every single fight that's fueled by emotion, every refusal to communicate, it just adds another delay. A process that could have taken a few months can suddenly stretch into years, leaving you completely stuck in this painful limbo.
And of course, a longer timeline means one thing for sure: higher costs. We're talking more hours for lawyers, more fees for court, more financial strain all around. Every delay that's sparked by emotion is literally draining the money you need to start building your new life.
So this whole idea of emotional decision-making, it can sound a little abstract, right? So let's get concrete. Let's look at how this stuff actually shows up in the real world, the actions that can completely sabotage a divorce.
And here you can really see the two paths laid out, clear as day. On one side, you've got that emotional reaction, fighting just to get even, refusing to compromise on anything. On the other side, you've got the strategic approach, negotiating realistically, looking at all your options for a settlement, and making sure a lawyer reviews everything. One of these paths leads to endless conflict. The other one leads to an actual resolution.
Okay, so we know the mistake and we know what it looks like in practice. The most important question now is, how in the world do you avoid it? Well, the good news is, there's a pretty clear three-step path you can follow to stay on track.
Think of these as your 3 pillars for a much more strategic divorce. First, you pause. Second, you separate the legal stuff from the emotional stuff. And third, you fight that urge to vent about it publicly. Let's break down exactly what each of these means.
All right, step 1 is so simple in theory. Just pause. Before you make any big decision about property, about money, about your kids, just stop, take a breath, and run it by your lawyer. A snap decision made in the heat of the moment without any expert advice is probably the easiest way to make a really costly long-term mistake.
Step 2 is all about separating your needs into 2 different lanes. Think of it this way. Your lawyer is for your legal strategy. Your therapist is for your emotional support. Trying to use your lawyer as a therapist is just incredibly expensive, and frankly, it doesn't work. And getting legal advice from your therapist, just as bad. You have to use the right professional for the right job.
And finally, step 3, avoid venting in public. And that especially means on social media. I mean, come on. Posting angry messages or sharing private details online, it does nothing but pour gasoline on the fire. It gives the other side ammunition against you and makes any kind of negotiation practically impossible. Just remember this, emotional escalation almost always leads to worse outcomes.
Now let's talk about when the stakes are at their absolute highest. Because everything we've just discussed, it becomes 10 times more critical when there are children involved. This is the point where managing your emotions isn't just about protecting yourself, it's about protecting them.
This is what experts call the conflict feedback loop. It's a vicious cycle, right? One person sends an angry text, the other person replies with even more anger, and the whole thing just spirals out of control. That cycle is toxic for co-parenting, and it's incredibly damaging for a child to witness. Your number one job has to be the one who breaks that loop.
This also means you simply cannot pull your children into the conflict. You never use them as messengers to the other parent. You never ask them to take sides, and you never ever argue in front of them. Their world needs to be a safe harbor from the adult storm, not the center of it.
So if you only take one single thing away from all of this, let it be this. You have to learn to separate your emotions, which are completely valid and powerful, from your clear-eyed, long-term strategy. Your feelings are real, but they can't be the ones making your legal decisions.
So really, it all comes down to this one question. When your financial stability, your peace of mind, and your entire future are on the line, who are you going to let make the calls? Your temporary, reactive emotions, or the thoughtful, strategic you? The choice is always yours.